I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. I came from a close-knitted family, even though I came from a poor family. But they gave me education with the instruction that this is the tool that will help me to dig my way out of poverty and ignorance. I came without a dime in my pocket. All I had was big dreams, determination to succeed, and the resilience. So coming from another country gave me that insight to be able to understand and deal with people from different backgrounds.
I was walking into Kroger to pick up a prescription for my mom. Upon approaching the pharmacy, I slipped and fell in some liquid. I went to see my regular doctor, and that is when I knew that there was more going on from that fall. I then called Mr. Olawale, talked to him and let him know what was going on. I could just say that he's very professional and knowledgeable about what he does. He's very passionate about what he does, and he cares about his clients. I felt like I was a part of the Olawale family.
The goal is to make sure that our clients will leave feeling that someone gets them, knowing that someone was able to be the voice for them.
We needed an attorney because we needed somebody who understood the relationship between our case and the law. We had been through 4 different lawyers. We were very desperate. We knew from what we had heard that Emmanuel Olawale was the man, who could take us through that experience and see us through and give us the kind of outcome we were looking for. For him, your case is personal. He gave us hope. He gave us encouragement, and we knew that we had found the right man that would see us through.
Just know that when you're coming through the door, you're coming in through a place where you will be accepted and welcome as family, where you'll be seen as a person. At the Olawale Law Firm, we get you. We understand you. Trust us. Welcome to this episode of Legal Angle with Emmanuel Olawale. I have a familiar face with me on the show today. Most of you probably just saw a face on that video that I played before the start of the show. Her name is Pamela Saunders, and she is a mediator. She's going to be educating us today about mediation and especially landlord and tenant disputes. Welcome to the show, Ms. Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Olawale. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you. Can you tell us more about yourself?
Well, I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I'm the 4th sibling. I have 4 other siblings, and I'm the 4th one. One of my sisters attended college, so therefore I wanted to step in the footsteps of her. So there are 2 of us that actually went to college in our family. I grew up in a single parent home. My mother, she did odd jobs to make ends meet. My father, he wasn't in the home with us. He was a Korean War veteran, and due to his alcoholism, he was an alcoholic. He wasn't in the home with us. At the age of 17, I did have my first child, and my mom helped me with her while I finished school. I was still living at home at that time, but I determined to do something better with my life after I finished high school, and I decided to go to college. I attended Columbus State Community College, and there I completed some classes to obtain a substance abuse chemical dependency counselor certification. I did obtain that from the state of Ohio. And my goal was to try and find out what and how substance abuse, how it tears up the family. So my motivation to go to Columbus State and get educated on that, it came from my dad. I later on pursued my education at DeVry University, obtaining a computer technology degree and technical management in business bachelor degree.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what was it like to grow up in Columbus, Ohio?
It was, at times it was challenging. I can remember, I want to tell this story. I can remember being in the first grade, and I had a teacher, and I won't say her name. I can't remember her name anyway, but I won't disclose her name if I could remember. But I remember the motivation that she gave me to do what I do now, and that's work with individuals and give them the opportunity at a fair chance. And I say that because I remember being put in the corner. I remember being put in the school office at that time because I'm left-handed and I couldn't write with my right hand. So I was sent to the office and I was separated from the other students. That gave me the knowledge and the opportunity to be able to work with people and make sure that they have a fair chance at what their concerns are, and not only have a fair chance at it, but also to be able to express their concerns.
So that gave you the ability to be able to understand everyone's concerns. Yes. And talking about what you experienced with that teacher, how did it make you feel?
It made me feel like it made me feel, in my mind, I was thinking at that time, this is unfair. This is unfair. I didn't know what segregation mean. I know what it means today. But then I didn't know that being separated from other students, we would call that segregation today. Because I was unable to write with my right hand and I am left-handed, I didn't know that was discrimination. Today, we would call that discrimination. Yeah. So that was my motivation to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah, you felt unfairly treated. And you mentioned that you were raised primarily by your mom and your dad was not around. What was that like for you?
It was traumatic. It was a traumatic experience not having a father around to educate me on what to expect in life. Now, as a family, families need both the mother and the father. But my mom was only able to give me the tools that I needed from a woman's point of view. So I never got the point of view from a man because my dad wasn't around. And when he was around, which in fact I did build a relationship with him at the age of 18. But that was an on and off relationship because of his alcoholism. So I didn't really build a very close relationship with him. So a part of that, you learn. I learned as I continued my journey on in life.
So you reconnected with him at the age of 18?
I connected with him, yes.
What was that like? What was the relationship like when you connected?
At first, I had a lot of questions for him. Again, in my earlier conversation, I did educate myself by going to school for substance abuse and alcoholism. So I had already had a little bit of knowledge of what he may have been going through. But I did ask the question, what's going on? You know, tell me your story. I was open. I was open to listening to what he had to say. Um, I remember him telling me that he fought in the Korean War. He was a Korean War veteran, and the many things that he had to do while he was in the military, and the things that he didn't want to do, but he did it anyway, because that's what he had to do. Remember him explaining all that to me. I remember sitting on the couch with him and watching the tears roll off his face as he explained to me what he had been through during that time. That gave me a sense of, I felt as if, okay, I needed to hear this. I needed to hear this because I wanted to understand him. And from there on, even though our relationship was on and off, I talked to him on and off, I did continue to pursue a relationship with him, even after that, and talking to him and getting to know him more. I would go over his house and write his checks out for him, clean up the house, and still engage in conversation. So I did get a chance to get to know him a little bit better before he passed.
Yeah. Wow. So getting to hear and know his story gives you the ability to have empathy and compassion for him.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
So he was using those chemicals to numb the pain of the PTSD from war.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Did your other siblings have the same understanding?
My other siblings did not have the same understanding that I did. Even though I tried to educate the family on substance abuse, it's not it's a disease. It's considered a disease. So even though I tried to, at that time, I tried to educate them, I tried to explain that this is something that nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be a drug addict or I want to be an alcoholic. It's a disease. So with time of explaining and giving him the chance and talking to him more, I kind of was the in-between person, the middle person, to bridge the family together to where they could talk to him and understand why he was not in our life.
Now it makes sense how you end up being a mediator. You've always been the one trying to bring your family together.
Yes.
Even when it comes to the issue of substance abuse, relationship with the parents, with your, and your dad and your other siblings.
Yes.
But you were doing that without training.
It came natural.
It came naturally. Yes. So it made sense. And when you were in high school at the age of 17, you got pregnant with your first child.
I did.
What was that like?
It was challenging. I can say it was challenging, but I can also say that if it wasn't for my mom, I don't know where I would have been with my life, because like I said earlier, she watched my daughter while I attended school, finished school. I do remember working. I worked at Kroger's at that time. That was my first job. And I went to school, finished school and worked there while my mom watched her. So it was really challenging. And then after I finished high school, I still kept the job, and then I pursued my college career. But I say that all to say that family is important, and support. She gave me the support I needed to move forward. But having a child at that age and being unwed, it was very challenging.
I can only imagine. But then you didn't give up. You kept pressing forward and you eventually graduated and went to college. What was the source of that determination?
The source of that determination is knowing that I needed my education. I'm a Black woman. I'm in a society that being Black is not easy if you don't have an education. And I understood that at a young age. And not only that, I understood the stigma that I was labeled by having a child at such a young age. And my motivation to pursue my education, for me, it wasn't optional because of the stigma that I was labeled. So that was my motivation to continue my education and to also show my daughter that, you know, things in life happen, but you don't have to give up. You have to continue to move forward. I had to show her that I wasn't going to not pursue my education and just give up. So she was my motivation, and being motivated to continue my education has always been important to me.
Thank you. And what was college life like for you as a single mom, young, and also working?
Oh, it was very difficult. It was very difficult. I had to put her on a schedule. That's the only way I was able to make it. She had to be on a tight schedule. Eat, bath, playtime, go to bed, then I would study. I would take classes in the evening. I would take classes early in the morning. I would finagle my work schedule around my classes. It was very difficult.
And after you graduated, what was your first job?
After I graduated from college?
Yes.
After I graduated from DeVry University, in the midst of that, I was working on starting a business. At this point, I was working on starting a business. I graduated. Yeah, I was working on starting a business. Thinking about it because I no longer wanted to work for anyone. I wanted to set time and goals. It was so hard. I wanted to set those goals and times myself. So at this point in time, I was working on creating a business of my own. And that's where A New Beginning Mediation came in at. After I graduated, with I took a lot of business classes. I paid attention, and I said, you know what? I want to start my own business. I want this and to be a new beginning for me. That's where that name came in at, because I wanted it to be a new beginning for my life.
So you started A New Beginning Mediation Services.
Yes.
And what got you into mediation in the first place?
My trials, my tribulations, my background to want to help people to understand that, hey, a lot of times we go through conflict. We have disputes because of lack of communication. We don't know how to handle conflict. So for me to get in the field, to be able to teach the tools to be able to communicate and properly handle disputes was very important to me. I've done public awareness. I've attended a lot of public awareness seminars and educating people on what mediation is. It's not just sitting with it's not just sitting with people and trying to help them come to an agreement. It's also understanding communication and how to diffuse disputes. We see that so often today, all over. We see it. And it can get really, it can be really disturbing when we don't know how to handle a situation when they arise. And that's what led me to do what I do now.
Yeah. For those of you listening who may not even understand what mediation is, can you educate them as to what mediation is?
Mediation is the process of bringing two or more parties together and trying to come up with a resolution that will work best for the both of the parties, or all of the parties in that matter. It's coming together and listening to one another and coming up with resolutions, solutions, and just trying to work together for the common good of each other. So win-win situation for all parties.
Yeah, and talking about landlord-tenant issues, what are the common issues between landlords and tenants that you've mediated?
The common issue is lack of communication. Sometimes I've had tenants where their situation, their financial situation has changed. But I understand that when life comes at you fast and your finances begin to change, your situation change. Sometimes people, what they might say, they'll put their head under a rock and they don't want to face it. Sometimes that happens. And when that happens, there's no communication between them and the landlord. The landlord don't know that their finances have changed. There's a circumstance that they couldn't even help. He doesn't know that. And sometimes people don't want to talk about it. They don't know how to talk about it. And that's where I come in, a mediator. A mediator could talk to the tenant and then talk to the landlord at separate times and try to bring them both together. That way the communication can start. The tenant can then let the landlord know, hey, this is why my rent was late. This is why I didn't call you, because I was going through this or that. And a lot of times, the landlord, if they know what's going on, they are sympathetic to certain circumstances that go on in, people's lives. Very understanding. And maybe can come up with a payment plan until that circumstance change. But it's all about communicating with one another.
It's all about communicating with one another.
Yes.
What happens in the process where people are at the mediation and one party refuses to talk?
Well, I've had that happen before. What I normally do is I set the tone for the environment, a peaceful environment. That's the beginning. That's the beginning stages right there. If a person is able to trust you, and you've already set that tone, you set the environment tone, what I've done is I would separate the individuals. It's called a caucus. And that means to separate the individuals and talk to one person at a time. Maybe they don't feel comfortable. They may tell me something that they don't want the landlord to know. Or the landlord might tell me something that they don't want the tenant to know. So I think that allowing the parties to be able to trust me as a mediator, and it is a confidential process, being able to trust me, I think that makes a whole lot of difference in getting what it is they weren't going to say at the table out when they're not at the table with that individual being there.
Yeah. And what is the process of seeking mediation?
The process of seeking mediation?
Yes.
As far as if you need mediation, I have a number and an email address. You can visit my website. You can visit me at, you can contact me at 614-214-3604, or you can visit the website, ANB Mediation.com, or you can email me at anbms1111@gmail.com.
Thank you. So how do you facilitate agreement between a landlord who wants a tenant out and a tenant who wants to stay but is behind on rent?
I would talk to the landlord first and try to find out first I would talk to the tenant, find out what the situation, what circumstances they're going through, what the situation, why they have not paid. They have been getting notices from the landlord. I would talk to them, find out what the situation is, and then I would talk to the landlord and find out if they would be willing to accept any type of payment arrangements if the circumstances would warrant that.
What happens in a situation where two parties, they reach an agreement at the mediation, then afterward, one of them, either the landlord or the tenant, changes their mind?
Well, during a mediation, an agreement has to be written up, but understand that it can always be modified by coming back to the table. So one way of doing that, if they did change their mind, we can always come back to the table and modify it. But again, as I said before, communication is the key. In order to get back to the table, mediation is just not a one time, we just do this one time and then it's over. The parties do have the option to come back to the table again and modify some changes. Maybe, like I said earlier, maybe something changed. Maybe it was something unforeseen that changed. So those are options too, not just one session or two sessions, whatever it takes to keep the tenant in the home, and whatever it takes to make sure that the landlord is getting paid.
Okay. Can each any of the parties seek to enforce a mediation agreement in court?
Can they stick to it?
Yeah, no. Can they? Is it is the agreement enforceable in court?
Yeah, they can't. They can take, if they do have a court date coming up, they can say that, hey, we sat down with the mediator. Here's our written agreement. We both agreed to this, and they can allow the judge to see that, and then the judge will make that determination on whether or not they're going to pursue that. If there's some type of a court hearing, the judge will make that final decision on that. But they can take that agreement to court and show the judge that there is an agreement.
Okay. Do they need lawyers to attend mediation?
Yes, they that's a yes and that's a no. Yes and no. Yes, if they want to. Do they have to have? No. If they want their attorney present at the mediation, that's fine. No problem. So it's up to the discretion of the parties.
In your experience, does it matter whether or not they have an attorney? Does having an attorney help facilitate resolution, or does it hinder coming to an agreement?
I don't look at it as a hindrance. If an attorney is present, I look at it as very helpful, because they can talk to their client to move the process farther, to continue to move it farther, and to also help their client make, some sound decisions themselves. So I don't see that having an attorney there would be a hindrance at all. It's actually helpful. In my career, I've had a lot of attorneys that attended mediations with their clients, and I thought it was helpful.
Thank you. And the pandemic was a time where a lot of people went through financial difficulties.
Yes.
And invariably it led to a lot of tenants being unable to afford paying the rent because a lot of people lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. Was there an uptick in requests for mediation at the time?
I didn't see a lot. Because they couldn't pay for the services, or during the pandemic when it first started, people were distraught. People were it's almost like they were in their own little zone. I just didn't see a lot because of that, because of the pandemic being so I don't know. It affected mediation. Not only did it affect the clients, but it affected everyone.
And who pays for the mediation?
The parties can come to an agreement to make that decision, or one party could call to see if the other party will be in agreement to the mediation. So either both parties can agree to pay the mediator if they come to an agreement, or either the one who called the mediator in.
What happens in a situation where there's no resolution and the hiring party feels like they didn't get something back for what they're paying for?
I explained at the beginning of the process, and we are here to try and come to a resolution or an agreement. Now, is it 100%? It's not always 100%. I don't have 100% case rating. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes there's not a resolution. But the good thing is we were able to get everyone at the table. And I would explain that. However, I have been known to, if they felt like they didn't get the services that they thought they should have gotten, I don't have a problem with allowing the parties to come back, but also giving them timelines and also setting specific sessions, time sessions. I don't have a problem with doing that, because maybe it's not always, it doesn't always go as they expected the first time, but who knows? People go home, they change their minds, they think about it, and so I don't have a problem with having another session, but I do, and I will give I will set timelines on those second mediations.
Is there a requisite number of hours for a session?
There isn't. There isn't. I have to. I would say, okay, if I see that a mediation could last for 8 hours a day, I'm gonna be honest with you. We're not going to do a mediation for 8 hours. I'm going to set times. We're going to do a mediation. We'll do maybe 4 hours a session. And that is explained in the agreement, that the mediation can last between 1 to 4 hours. Now, if we need another session, we may have another, we may get to almost an agreement at the end. Maybe it might take 3 hours. Maybe it takes 4 hours, but we know we're getting somewhere. So the next time I may schedule 2 hours, because I know that this is coming to, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. And not only that, I communicate with both of the parties by doing conference calls with them. Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Has anything changed since our last mediation? Yeah, this changed or that changed. I continue to communicate with the parties throughout the whole time. It's not they go to a session, we have mediation, and then I'm out. No, I do conference calls. I do conference emails to check on them, make sure everything is going okay, any updates. So, yes.
Thank you. Are there cases where the landlord and tenants are disputing the lease itself? Maybe one party wants to amend the lease and the other one wants it to stay the way it is, and it ends up in front of you to mediate.
If a party wants to amend the lease, and the landlord, I've had some landlords would comply to that after they find out what's going on, after they find out, well, what are the concerns? But then there are some landlords that won't do that because they felt like, and I've heard this a lot, they feel like that discussion should have happened at the beginning when they first moved in. So some of them will, some of them won't. It depends on the landlord.
Thank you. And do you handle cases that has been filed in court only, or do you handle pre-litigation mediation?
I handle cases that if it does come from the court, it would be coming from a referral. But most of my cases are private mediations where I may get a call to see if I do tenant landlord. I say yes. I get the information from the parties, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Okay. In a situation where each of the parties cannot even, they are so stubborn or so, let me say, stuck in their positions that neither party wants to move or neither party wants to yield. How do you handle that?
I've had cases like that before, I'm not afraid to say this is an impasse. We're not gonna go anywhere with this. And I'm very honest at saying too, um, now if you want to pay for session and session and session to continue this, knowing that we are at an impasse, I don't think a lot of people want to do that because that's a waste of their money. So no, I'm not afraid to say this is we're at an impasse, and I feel like that this mediation can no longer move forward, and I'm not afraid to say that at all. So yes, I've had cases where that has happened. Unfortunately, it happens. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't, because like I said earlier, I have had successful mediations and some that are not so successful. I don't have 100% mediation rate.
Yes. Because you can't control everybody. You can only control you.
That's right.
So the parties have to be the one to come to a resolution themselves.
That's right. That's right. The parties make, they decide the outcome. I don't decide the outcome. They decide the outcome.
Yeah. And when they decide the outcome, they can hone it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's different from a judge making that decision for them.
Yes. And they do have that option after leaving me. If it is an impasse, they do have that option to go to court and pursue it in court, or call an attorney. They have that option.
Do you also handle situations where a house has been foreclosed and the owner of the house wants to negotiate with the bank?
I've done many foreclosure mediations. Yes, I've done many mediations where I would call the lender and the borrower and try to negotiate, try to find some kind of common ground to keep them in their homes, to keep the foreclosure from going. And it's been successful. A lot of banks, a lot of lenders are they don't mind working with the homeowners. And that's something that there's a lot of programs out there like that. But yeah, they don't mind working with them to keep them in their home, even if they put them on a payment plan. And yeah. Foreclosure, yes.
Does it have to be court ordered?
It doesn't have to be a court ordered. I've gotten calls where homeowners will call and say, "Hey, I'm in foreclosure. Is there anything that you can do?" And then I would contact the lender and talk to them, and then they would work out something. And then I would call, I would do the conference calls with the lender, and I would do the conference calls with the homeowners to find out where you guys are, where you at in the process right now. What's going on? Are you exchanging documents with the lender? Or are you the lender may request documents and need them at a specific time? So yes, at that point in time, the homeowners can choose their own self to go to court on it, but they don't have to. They don't have to. I think when it comes to mediation and trying to bring the lender and the homeowner together when a foreclosure is in process, at that particular time, they could notify the court and let them know, hey, we went to a mediator, the lender and I, we worked it out, and the lender, I guess the lender on their side, they would have to notify the court as well. I'm not an attorney, so I can't give anyone legal advice, but from my experience, that has happened.
Thank you. And before you became a mediator, you were also working with people suffering from addiction and families of people suffering from addiction. What propelled you to go into that field?
My father, as indicated earlier, I still have a passion to help individuals that I know who are suffering from addiction. And it stemmed from not having a father and then understanding why he wasn't around and following my passion and my purpose that I'm going to help anywhere I can to educate people on this illness. It's a disease. I've worked with families trying to cope with their loved ones who had addictions. They just were confused. They didn't know what was going on, because understand that addiction not only affects the person, but it affects the family as well. The family has to know how to cope with that. And so my role, I've worked many jobs in my career. My role was to sit down with the family and explain and also educate them on this disease. That wasn't done for me. So I felt the need that the family should know how to cope with that. So I was a family therapy coordinator where I worked with families every weekend, and we would role play. Their loved one would be there. And at that time, they were sober. And I got the family and the person who were trying to remain sober together, and they would talk. They would apologize. It was emotional. Everyone was emotional. But I did see where the families began to understand this thing called addiction.
How did helping others with addiction and their families of people suffering from addiction, how did that help you to deal with your own trauma coming from addiction?
It helped me because of the role plays that we had to do. It helped me being a part of that. I understand that while I was helping them, I was learning too. I was learning because nobody sat down with me and said, hey, this is how you understand addiction. No one helped me to understand that. I learned, I educated myself, and then when I started helping others, it helped me, and we all was learning at the same time. So by me being a member or having a family member with an addiction, it helped me too. I'm learning at the same time they was learning. Even though I was teaching the class, I still was learning too. I enjoyed it. I really did.
It was part of your own healing process.
Yes, it was.
Mm.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And what advice will you have for families of people dealing with addiction at the moment? Because it has become a kind of, well, we can call it an epidemic right now,
It is.
especially with the deaths, the hospitalization,
It is.
and all these other issues that come from addiction.
Learn all you can about the disease. Support your loved one. Try and get into some type of support groups. I attended support groups as well. I attended those support groups and understanding. I did that. Try and see if there's any support groups that individual can get into if they would. Now understand that sometimes the person that is addicted to drugs or alcohol, they have to come to an agreement with themselves to say, hey, enough is enough. Enough is enough. I've hurt my family enough, and now I'm ready to change. But support, even though they may not be ready, still support them. Let them know, I love you. I don't agree with what you are doing to yourself or to the family, but I'm still going to love you and I'm still going to support you when you are ready to make that decision yourself. I am here.
Support them, love them, don't judge them, and don't toss them away.
Don't toss them away. They're still people. And there's a chance. I see this and I've seen it in my career. There's a chance. It's always a chance. Well, they may just come and say, hey, I'm ready. Allow them to have that chance. Let them know that the door is open when they do decide to come and knock on that door. Give them that hope. All a person needs is just a little hope. And that little hope that you, as a family member, can give them may change the rest of their life. And not only change their life, but it will change your life and other family members and a whole generation, future lives. Give them hope.
Wow, that's deep. Yeah, it's never, no, you're saying that they shouldn't make the journey to recovery lonely for the addict.
No.
Give them the support.
Give them support and love.
Do you still help people suffering with addictions in their families?
I attend some groups. Sometimes I attend some groups so that I can be able to speak about my journey and understanding about addiction. So I do still sometimes participate in meetings and groups so that I could, I love going to groups and listening to the stories that I've heard or that I hear. 10 years clean, 15 years clean. I keeping a stable job. And sometimes those were some of my clients. And I would just sit and like, oh my gosh. I've seen people come up to me and say, do you remember me? You helped me. Remember when? And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. I just felt so good. Yes, I do attend some class, some of the meetings that they have just to stay in touch.
Okay. And what does it mean to you to come on this show, Legal Angle, to educate the public about what you do, which is
oh man, this has been a wonderful experience. I'm glad that you invited me to the show to be able to speak about the experience of addiction, to speak about mediation and how it can help tenant and landlords. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to be here. And I want people to know that you can continue. You don't have to give up. Don't give up. And be strong. Be strong. So I was able to come on this show and share my story. And I know a lot of you may have a story to share too. But don't give up. Don't give up. Keep going. I did it, and you can do it too.
Don't give up. You've always been that person connecting people, facilitating communication, mediating between parties who can agree on what to do or what not to do, and I'm glad that you came on the show
Thank you
to
so
educate
much.
the public. It's been a pleasure
Thank
talking
you.
to you on Legal Angle.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And for those of you watching us at home or on your tablet or your computer or listening to this as a podcast, thank you for your time. Until next time, stay blessed. Bye for now.
Bye.